What's up, Dream Builder? Are you someone who's interested in creating a life by your design through all things real estate? Well, I can assure you, you are in the right place. Join me, your host, Casanova Brooks. I'm an award-winning real estate agent and investor as we uncover the top tips, strategies, and the mindset of the top real estate entrepreneurs across the world. Stay locked in because we're about to go on a journey that will change your life. What's up, Dream Nation? We are back again with another episode, and I'm excited to talk to you today about living life and specifically your real estate life on your own terms. And so none other than I would like to thank the pioneer of living on your own terms. We have Mr. Chris Prefontaine with us today. Chris, you want to go ahead and say what's up to Dream Nation?
Yeah, what's up, guys? What's up, listeners? Thanks for having me, buddy. I can't wait to dive in here. I don't think I've been called the pioneer of that before, but thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean, you've been around for, 30 years now in the real estate industry?
30 years this fall, yeah.
Wow. So, I mean, you've seen a lot, you've learned a lot of lessons, and I think for a lot of us now, we're going through the trenches, and it's nice to know that we have somebody that's been in it, but still in it every single day. So I'm excited to bring you on. Let's talk about where you got your start in the real estate. And a lot of times what I like to do is I like to compare us as real estate entrepreneurs to superheroes. And the reason being is because we're constantly flying around the world, we're putting on our cape, and we're trying to solve some of the world's biggest problems. And so we know, a lot of people know the superhero as in Chris Prefontaine, but talk to us about who on the backside is that Clark Kent of Chris Prefontaine.
Sure. So as you mentioned to me before the show, just to give you a fast kind of 10,000-foot view, 91-ish, started building homes, literally on terms without knowing it was on terms, because we would stick a sign in a landowner's yard. We would then pre-market a finished product with a builder, build it, and when the end loan closed, all the subcontractors and the landowner got paid. So that was pretty cool. I made it up on the fly. I was in my 20s. It was a cool process. Then 95, I bought a Realty Executives franchise, sold that to Coldwell Banker in 2000, began my own investments and began coaching back then. And then the lovely debacle hit in 08. That caused us to rethink, re-engineer the entire business model, which exists today, which is all terms. The owner financing, lease purchase, subject to buying, because no banks, no signing personally, none of that garbage. And that's why we did it all because of 08.
Got it. Now, let's talk. That's a really hot topic nowadays because obviously since 08, it's gotten even more strict. So how did you structure your first deal? Do you remember how you just kind of stumbled upon it and started doing things on terms?
Well, yeah. So I kind of stumbled upon the ideas first and then started getting on the phones. And it was because, look, this isn't new, right? Casanova, this is like, I wish I could tell you I invented it, right? But terms deals have been done since late 1800s. Okay, but the difference is there was no system for all three of the things that I just said, and we then trademarked the 3 payday system, and we'll talk about that, but that's how we exit. So it's pretty cool because for years I was a realtor and then building, you do a deal, you get a check, right? This is 3 paydays, and so that's different. But first, going back to your question for the first deal, my first sandwich lease deal was back in, probably 13 or so. That house.
For anybody who doesn't know what a sandwich
lease is. Good point. So a sandwich lease is nothing more than the 2 pieces of bread would be the seller and my buyer, and I'm in the middle. And I secure my interest with what we call notice of option. We put that right on record because without that, I'm not protected. I don't own the house and I'm not the buyer, right? So we protect that with a notice of option so we make sure we get paid. That's all it is.
Got it. Okay, so if someone's saying, okay, well, it sounds like you're wholesaling. Is it the same thing?
No, good question, because there's a way to do what I do with 1 payday and just assign it back to the seller, but we don't do that because that would be more like, and look, I have a lot of friends that are wholesale, so this is not an arrow at them, but that's a job. That's 1 check, right? So what we do is in that sandwich lease, I tie the house up with a lease purchase agreement. I then go find a tenant buyer that has to have a little bit more time to get mortgage ready. That time could be credit a lot of times, could be just more seasoning, could be more money down because the banks now are brutal with COVID. They want more money, they want more reserves. So while they're getting their stuff together to get mortgage ready, I'm collecting a down payment that's non-refundable, payday 1. I'm collecting a monthly check that's bigger than the mortgage I'm paying. That's in the seller's name, by the way, never mine. And I'm collecting a payday 3 that is all of the principal pay down over the course of this term of the lease purchase, plus my markup in price. So all 3 paydays, Casanova, we average around 75 grand right now. Our family team. My students go, man, as low as 45 grand and as high as 250 per deal, all 3 paydays.
Wow. And so talk to me about what's the benefit for the seller? Because someone's saying like, okay, well, I would love to be able to learn that. Why would a seller do this for me rather than just selling off their property, right, and being done with it?
Yeah, so I'll answer 2 ways. One is kind of pre-COVID, the way we built it, and now post-COVID. So different scenarios in no particular order. This woman she had a divorce and she was going to Florida. She owed about what it was worth, tried to sell it for a little bit more to cover the realtor and couldn't. I get that a lot. So they don't want to come out of pocket. Some can't. They just simply can't. And so she never would have sold. She might have got foreclosed on. And so basically I gave her debt relief. That was her scenario. Now, there's other scenarios where they have a ton of equity, but they couldn't get it on the open market for whatever reason. You know, it might have been a functionality issue. It might have been, they're just overpriced. I can get people to their price and give them all their equity as long as I get the term I want so that I have the principal pay down over X amount of years. Job reload, sickness, divorce, anything that a seller has to pivot quickly and can't get their cash out or debt relief right away, we can act quickly. Those are just some basic scenarios. We also deal with, just so that the listeners don't think it's like always a stressful situation, we deal with free and clear owners too. We do owner financing deals with them, and they don't owe anything. Free and clear meaning no mortgage, and we structure deals with them because we can get them the best price as long as they'll give us time.
Got it. And so how much time are you normally looking for? Like if somebody had, a property that's worth, let's say $300,000, they own it free and clear. They're thought about selling it, but you approach them and you say, hey, don't sell it. I want to do a seller finance deal. I want you to hold back some of it. What is some types of terms initially, knowing that they own this free and clear? How are you approaching them and what's the win-win scenario?
Yeah, win-win is top price or premium. I'll explain. So I asked them what they thought they were going to net, because usually if people on, a seller will go, well, I was on for 300. I was hoping to get like 90 or whatever they say, right? So I said, okay, great. How about if I could get you the full 300 or even higher? The higher would be if I can go further out. And the reason is, here's the key. We make principal only payments. So no interest. So if they go out an extra 12 months and hypothetically I'm making $1,000 monthly payment, do I care if I up the price $2 or $3 grand? Not really. I'm going to get $12,000 extra principal pay down. So we did a deal, for example. We bought it for $183,000. We structured a 4-year term. That's pretty typical minimum term on owner financing that I prefer. And we structured $923 monthly principal only payments. We got to year 2 or 3. We offered them a little cash down towards the principal if they'll extend it another year. They did, because it was almost like we were giving them extra cash flow, even though it was principal. The next year, during the holidays, they said, hey, will you do that again? We said, sure. We gave another little deposit. I think it was 5 or 6. They put us out another year. And then this past year, they called and said, will you do that again? And my son-in-law said, ask them if they'll go 15 years and we'll give them a little interest. I asked them that. Their accountant said, great idea. And now we have a 21-year deal. See, it started as a 4, and it went to a 21-year deal because we added a little interest after 4 years.
Wow. No.
So you can get creative.
Yeah, definitely. And so are you still, when you're doing these owner financing, are you still sandwich leasing? So at the end of the year, you have someone else that's paying you that, and then they need to, because what happens, is that the way you're still doing it, or are you doing it differently when you do owner financing?
Yeah, no, we do still exit with a rent-to-own buyer, yes. The caveat there is what we love lately, even more so as we developed quite a portfolio, is if we have a long enough term, or we bought it subject to existing financing, so we have no end date. If we have the nice long ramp like that, I'll put you in the home as a buyer, give you a carrot, the carrot being, hey, if you can keep your payments up for a year, if you can miss none of your deposit payments, and if we can get your deposit up to 20% over time, take your time, when you get to that point, you'll never have to go to a bank again. I will owner finance you. The tenant buyers love it because they thought they had to go through all the underwriting and all the garbage that banks put them through. So we are creating these 20-year deals now as well, 20 and 30.
Got it. And when you say get your deposit up, you mean on the side, they're saving up for a deposit. And if they can get it up to 20%, that's when you come in. Is that what you're saying?
Almost. They're saving it, but they're giving it to us. That's our payday one. And a lot of them need time, so they won't just give it all up front. They'll do like, hey, every tax return, I can give you 5 more each year. Or we had a state trooper, he said, hey, I have retroactive sergeant pay coming in September. We said, great. How much of that would you want to put? And we negotiate it that way. So the more they give, the more we have for cash flow, but the more vested they get in the home, and the win for them, if they do end up going for financing, they look better. So we're setting them up to win and get a better loan, if you think about it.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. So talk to me about how do you manage, like how many deals, is there a certain amount of deals where you're like anything over 50, it's just hard for us to manage this? Or like, what does that look like on the management side since you're always kind of brokering deals?
Yeah, it's not too difficult because remember now, this is another key point that you asked. They're buyers who need time versus tenants who are a headache. Nothing against tenants. I was one during my troubles, right? But that there is a different mentality, right? I think you'd agree with a tenant in a home as far as how they take care of it, what they pay for. A buyer, my conversation goes like this. Hey, Casanova, here's the deal. I'm not your landlord. You're a buyer. You need time. So I'm just like the bank. You just don't have a mortgage yet. You're going to pay for your toilet that breaks. You're going to put the roof on if it needs it. You're doing all that. But guess what? You're also capturing all the equity because I give you a price at the beginning and it's locked in. So you act and behave and pay for things like a homeowner. There's a difference from that to a tenant.
Yeah, for sure. And so are they then maintaining all of the repairs always?
Yeah.
Like they're always doing all of the repairs.
Yep. Yeah, just like they own it.
Yeah. No, it's solid. So what's the downsides of this? Right? Because there's always pros and cons with everything. What's the downsides when you're talking about sandwich leasing and even owner financing?
Yep. 2 to 5% of our deals. Okay. We're pretty, I'm from New England, so we're blunt. We'll tell you everything. So 2 to 5% of our deals will have a problem with a buyer. Why? Life happens. Sometimes the longer the term you give them, it's good for you, but you give them more time for life to happen, right?
Right.
So aside from COVID, which I have stories there too, but it just generally speaking, divorce happens, job loss happens, things happen, and buyers can fall off. 2 to 5% of the deals per year. It's just how it goes. We carry 50 or 60 typically at any one time, and a few per year. This happens. Now, what do? There's a pivot, literally a pivot to almost every scenario. So let's say I have a 4-year term and the buyer has a problem at year 2. I have enough time to put another tenant buyer in there. Let's say we have a 4-year term and they have a problem at like year 3.5. But we just put it in the open market and sell it. We had one of those this year, actually. And we did great because the house had appreciated. So even though it's sad sometimes to see that happen because they worked their butt off to get there, that's a small percentage in the overall plan scheme of things.
Do you think the terms are going to become even more vital once this moratorium, right, that gets lifted? Because right now it's going until, I want to say I just read May. Is that right?
I think if you're talking about rent, I think it's going all the way to 2 of our states out of the 3 we operate in, not counting our students. We got like 40 states. But our family company, 2 out of the 3 states is September now.
September. So obviously that also means that a lot of people, investor-wise, they might be in a scenario where they might need to sell. Are you going to be approaching those people and saying, hey, we can put tenants or, owner buyers, owner occupants into your properties?
Yeah, we do prospect. We always have, but to your point, it's better now. We always prospected for rent by owners, and there's a new category in our software, believe it or not, called tired landlords. They call it this. We didn't. And it's like 15 years they've owned property, and they call them tired landlords. I don't know how they mined this data, but that's what's their new category, and that's in PropStream. They have that available.
Yeah. Got it. And that was what I was going to ask you. So when you're looking for any of these motivated sellers, is that the first thing that you're kind of using to generate? Because obviously PropStream has really grown over the last 3 to 5 years in the real estate investing world. Is that something that you guys heavily use as well to find motivated sellers?
We do a few things. So we have virtual assistants dialing all the expireds, the FSBOs, and the for rent by owners. And then for someone that says, a student that says, hey, I'm kind of exhausting that, and I get my 1 or 2 deals, but I want to do more, they're more aggressive, sure. They can go to FreedomSoft, which is our private kind of white labeled CRM, and they can go to PropStream. They can also buy a list old school. You can buy a list for like 50, 60, $70 and import it into your system. So not hard to find those. I love free and clear, and I love out of state as far as leads.
Absentee. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's solid. So have you ever, I guess, when do you own any real estate, or do you always just broker the deals and you're like, hey, there's headache in owning the real estate ourselves. There's no point to doing it.
No, 2/3 of those we own. So out of the 3 categories, lease purchase, no, we don't take title. Owner financing, yes, we take title. Subject to, yes, we take title, long term. So 2 out of the 3 we take title. So as a result, same proportion of our portfolio, about 2 out of 3 we own, 2/3.
Got it. What is your thoughts? And just curious, because obviously you see a lot of new trends like short-term rentals. What are your thoughts on things like that? Like,
I like mixing that up.
Short-term rentals?
We have one property now that qualifies for that. It's on the ocean. And one of my good friends happens to be local here. He's been on my podcast, and he does a lot of Airbnb. So it's a good exit. Just like college rentals is another niche I've been in for years. Is that a good kind of niche for someone to put one of their, or 2 of their, or 3 of their properties in? Sure. You kind of become, in the book that we sent you, you can become that master transaction engineer once you get to know all the niches. That the challenges for the new people is it's so easy to get messed up or tripped up by the shiny object, because there's a lot of shiny objects in real estate. So I don't want to throw anyone off by saying that, because get real good at one niche for 3 years, then start to say, all right, how can I make this better? How can I make my portfolio better, more lucrative, more long-term?
No, I love it. What's been your favorite when you talk about sandwich deals and owner financing? Do you have one that you look back, you have a family business, which is so cool because you operate with your son as well. Is there one that you always just kind of look back on and you laugh and smile about it, about how you did that deal?
There's a ton, because the owner financing are always interesting deals. One comes to mind now because we still have it. And everybody I tell this deal to, they go, why would the seller do that? They don't, I don't know. I don't even know. So here's the deal. It's an oceanfront home. Beautiful, down Cape Cod. It's a resort area. And the owner is a realtor, was. So people would say right there, okay, double whammy. Why is the seller doing this, and why can't they just sell it? Okay. Her issue was she was debt-free. She's a Boston realtor, no newbie. And we approached her, and she sold it to us owner financing for $945,000. It's a beautiful home. She did it with, we did put some money down on this. I think we put like $8 or $9 grand. That broke the mold. We usually don't, but you're talking $1 million home. So we put $8 or $9 grand down, plus we paid for her transfer tax, because you can't expect her to pay for that when you're not giving her essentially nothing. Then we make $2,500 monthly principal payments. That's it. Now, we go to close it, and she says, can I stay longer? This was the key. This was the motivation. She has a sick mom. And she said, can I stay longer? So it really was about, now in hindsight, it was about her going, I want closure, but I want to stay here.
Right.
It was weird. So we let her stay there, and as long as she stayed there, we got $2,500 credit against principal as if we paid, and she paid the taxes and maintained it just like she owned it.
Right. So
it was like almost like a legal liability, I want closure. And then she moved out. This gets better. She moved out. We put a renter next. We weren't sure yet about either Airbnb or rent to own like we typically do. They were short term. They moved out. She called us and said, I'd like to move back into my home. I'll rent for $5,000 from you. Now, we pay her $25,000. She knows that. She knows the insurance costs us around $800. So we make it a little over $1,000, and she moved back in, and she keeps it like it's her house. She's very picky. So she's back in it, and then because we let her do that, we said we need more time for your loan, so she gave us another 2 or 3 years. So this is still in progress. I'll let you know next year where it is, but it's still in progress.
Wow. I don't know why she did that neither. Why she didn't just sell it. Wow. And you never asked her? Obviously, just like, don't ask, don't tell.
I didn't do that deal. My son-in-law Zach did, because I work with my son-in-law Zach and my son Nick. To this day, he'll call and say, I don't want to say her name on here, but so-and-so called again, and we just chuckle because you never know what she's going to come up with. Recently, she called and said, hey, any chance you can cash me out early? So we said, sure, we're going to offer a lot lower discount. So now we take that note and we carve off X. I don't know what X is going to be, but we're talking right now about that. You just never know with these deals. There's pivot after pivot after pivot. There's a deal after a deal always.
Got it. Now, when someone's just getting started, because a lot of people who watch and listen to this, they're just getting started in real estate. and they're trying to figure out, just like you said, a lot of shiny object syndromes.
Yeah.
Do I want to go the Burr route? Do I want to, try to wholesale, which is where a lot of people are getting their start at? Or now I'm thinking about, do I want to try to find things that are on lease options, sandwich leases, seller financing? Which, knowing that you've been a coach for 20 plus years in real estate, for a buyer right now or investor right now that's just getting started, where are you telling them to start? What's going to be the least resistance for them to have success?
Okay, so I'll give you a generic answer, and then I'll tell you what we tell our students, because I'm not so naive to think everybody should do what I do, right? I mean, I think they should, right? I'm biased, but I'm not so naive to think they will. So the lease purchase is an easy entry. There's a $10 deposit built into all our agreements. So, and you're not taking title, and you're not paying closing costs, so it's an easy entry. And instead of wholesaling, I know a lot of people cut their teeth there, but the fact is, it's one check. So why not do a lease purchase and capture the 3 payday system that we designed? Because you get now money, everybody loves that. You get monthly cash flow. They go, oh, cool, I can pay my bills. And then you get long-term wealth. You get the 3 best kind of vehicles. So it is a nice soft entry for a new person. Now, with our students, we teach all 3. So we teach them how to find all 3 deals: lease purchase, owner financing, and subject to. But here's what I would tell everybody to do, all the listeners. Let's say I didn't come on your show and I don't exist and my niche doesn't exist. Do this. Find a niche you like, that you can get behind, that you really go, you know what, I like that. I can help people. It's a win-win. 2, find someone in the niche that you can get behind, like morally, ethically, value-wise. Like we have values as a company. We're very family. Find someone like that you go, I can relate to that guy or gal. Fine. Then 3rd, here's the toughie. Put your blinders on for 36 months and don't deviate from what they say. If you do that, I don't care if you're opening a restaurant and you take that philosophy. If you do those 3 steps, you'll have a great experience. No, there's no question you will. You got to be coachable, but you'll have a great experience.
Yeah, no, and it's so funny that you brought up number 3, because I think the first 2, everybody's like, yeah, I could definitely do that.
Yeah.
But then it's that 3rd one, and it's tough with social media out here nowadays, and if you're not seeing instant results, right? Like if somebody's thinking about doing the 3 payday system that you had, what's the expectation that you set in the beginning? If they invest this money with you and they put the time in, they should see maybe results within 30 days, 90 days, 6 months?
That's the biggie. I'm saying it almost every time. You got some really pointed, well thought out questions. Thank you. Okay, so we work real hard on TTFD, time to first deal. Why? And I'm sure you know this from having your show, there are so many people out there that come to us and say, I've gone through X amount of courses, and it's a lot, like 3, 5, 8, 10. I've spent tens of thousands of dollars. 2 students of ours spent 6 figures before they met me. 6 figures. Wow. And one of them didn't do a deal ever. So figure that one out. So our mission is to do deals. So we track the metrics on time to first deal. We're in the trenches. We lock arms. We do these deals with the students. We don't go, okay, good luck. Here's a course. So our time to first deal right now, we've had records and anomalies like 30, 42, 50. But the average right now for the entire community across North America is like 120 to 180 days, 4 to 6 months. And yes, I could sit here and say there's a 42 last week, but that's not the norm. That's like the person, the guy or gal is being aggressive and they're doing great. The norm is more the 4 to 6.
Got it. No, and that's a good point. And I think for a lot of people, that's why they get into wholesaling, right? Because they hear that, oh, you can get your first deal within the next week and you just use PropStream. And while it can happen, that's not the normal, right? That the normal is it does take time, even just time to get the seller on board. Sometimes it takes a couple weeks before they get back to you. Right. And then you're trying to
yeah, exactly. Just follow up alone. Yeah.
Right. So for you guys, when you're building out your systems, do you focus on a lot of automation? You know, some people, obviously, you said you have people that are dialing every single day. A lot of people have built their systems with automation in mind, and they work on their business maybe, let's say 3 to 5 hours a week. How often would you say you're working in and on your business every single week? And even more importantly, I guess your students, how often would you say that they're working on their business within that first 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, a good question. I mean, our family team's different now. When I first started up and then I transitioned to the student, it would just be me dialing, so I would dial 5 or 10 hours a week. When I was brand new, fresh out of the gate, I needed money like I needed water. So, I mean, I just dialed, right? But now that my son-in-law came in and my son, and they did automate a lot of this stuff with the auto dialers and the voicemail dialers, et cetera, text messaging, everything. The student, though, time-wise, 10 hours a week, especially if they have a job. Most come to us, they have a job. They can't go full-time right away. And I encourage them to stay with that so they have some dry powder, I call it, some money on the side by the time they transition full-time. So 10 hours a week is pretty good at the beginning. If you said to me, I've got 40 hours, I don't have a lot to tell you to do in 40 hours unless you have the bandwidth money-wise to wait. Because you're just going to dial it first or follow up on the leads that came in from the people that dial. 10 hours is good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think 10 hours is definitely reasonable, and a lot of people can get behind that, especially like you said, if they find that niche that they get behind. 10 hours, and with the automation tools now, you're just really in that extra. Even if you have 20 hours or 30 hours, I would always encourage someone to create content around it, right? That you could throw up on YouTube, that you could throw up on a podcast, because that's going to accelerate it. And then maybe you're then sending the content to a seller or sending the content to someone else that you're trying to coach even. And I think that could definitely work. So I love that. For you, now that you've been an educator, where do you go to get your education? Do you listen, like, do you have podcasts, books? Like, what has really helped you to scale your mindset?
Three things, no particular priority order. Podcasts, yes. Audibles, because I love reading, so I like the book still. But Audibles has its position because if I'm on the elliptical or I'm working out, I can have an Audible going, or walking, I can have an Audible going. So I actually go through 2 or 3 times the books I used to just because of Audibles. And then third is every trimester, we go in trimesters instead of quarters. Every trimester as a team, in a family, all the team members, we say, what is your specialty training you're working on, and what is the company one we're working on? That means a mastermind group, a course, something appropriate for what we're working on that year. So, for example, in 17, I said to myself, wait a minute, I haven't really scaled taking a business from 7 to 8 figures. I've never done that. So I need to find some of the teachers that I found. 2 organizations, I joined one, and I've been with them since, called Elite Entrepreneurs. They're amazing. So that was that year. Now this year we said, that same group, but let's be in a mastermind group. So more general business owners. So it just depends on what we're working on. We pick what we want to go do. We have a black belt, Taki Moore. I don't know if you know him. He's amazing. He coaches coaches. Yeah, we've been with him for, I think this is our 2nd full year. And the amount of takeaways we get from that is just ridiculously productive. So we're always seeking out next.
Have you always been that way, to know that you needed and wanted a coach, or was this some point that you led to frustration that you said, hey, if I want to get something I never got, I really got to do something that I never did?
I, for the most part, with 2 exceptions, have always had an accountability coach and accountability partner, and a coach. And about 2 years ago, I thought back to the 2 times I got hit the hardest. One was 2008. And I figured out about 2 years ago that those 2 times, the only times I didn't have a coach, mentor, or like advisory group I could talk to and say, hey, what's going on here? That's it. So now I'll never have no coach or accountability partner. It's so important.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Now, you left a little bit of suspense, and I know at least I have it, and I'm sure somebody else watching or listening has this as well. So you said you listen to podcasts and you read books, even if you're listening to them on Audibles. So give me 1, your favorite podcast, and 2, your favorite book, or at least the favorite book that you've read in the last 6 months.
That's the latter question is a little bit more appropriate, because that too I change. Whatever I'm looking to work on next, right? That's where I go. Podcast right now, I love Ed Milet's. He spoke at our event, and I've had him on my show. He's just got big thinkers on there, so I like his book. I just finished The Art of Impossible by Steven Kotler, again, because I've had him on my show, and he spoke at our last event. So Ed was 2 events ago, Steven was last event. He's just a different thinker. If you watch, you could buy for less than $50, you can watch him on our event. He's an amazing thinker. And he works with high performance. He works with flow, what he calls flow. The Art of Impossible. I think the book just came out like a month ago, literally. So grab that. It's amazing.
Yeah, The Art of Impossible. We're big readers on here, so definitely got to listen to. I just got done listening to a couple different books, but I just got done listening one to 50 Cent's Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter, which was a very, very good book. But then also I just got done listening to The Third Door by Alex Banayan. I don't know if
that one I have not heard. The Third Door?
Yeah, Alex Banayan. I think both of those books are phenomenal in terms of mindset, perseverance, and just overcoming anything. And so,
love it.
Yeah, those are definitely good recommendations. Now, knowing what you know now, I always love to ask this question, but if you could implement it, knowing what you know and how much wiser that you are, looking back, if there was one thing that you wish that you would have implemented sooner to accelerate your path on your journey and your dream, what would that one thing be?
Reaching up higher, day one, whatever day one was in each journey, for a better mentor. Because we get out there and we rack our brains. We all, your listeners, I'm sure, all super hard workers and aggressive, but the fact is, somebody's already done it or something like it. Like success leaves clues. So why not just go get them? And people are so afraid to pay like $5 or $10 grand or $100 grand or $200 grand. I know a guy who pays $200 grand a year for a coach. Let me tell you, the return on that is immeasurable, in my opinion.
Wow. Why do you think so many? Do you think it's just the fear of losing money? Or why do you think the fear of paying for a coach is? Because a lot of people struggle with this. It's one of the biggest questions right now. People are looking for mentors instead of coaching. And I think a lot of the reason is because a mentor is free, right? Or at least that's the perception. But a coach, obviously, you have to pay. So what's your perception on that?
I'm going to say I know for a fact what I think. Let me say it that way. Mindset. It's a whole mental game. It's a belief. Here's why. If you said to me, Chris, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, if I go do X, I'm getting Y, you'd do it. And you'd find a way to get the money. You'd borrow it. You'd get a partner and say, give me the money. I know I'm going to do this. Like, you'd be emphatical about it, right? The problem is they don't have the belief. If they did, they'd do it. So I can stand on stage and say, you guys, if you do A, B, C, you're going to get the end result here. I'm going to get you to Z very quickly. If they don't believe it, I don't care what I charge. If I charge $1, then I'm going to do it, right? It's belief in themselves. So the mental piece, we have 3 pillars we teach on: mental piece or mindset, the skill set, and the systems. Systems and skill sets, we teach everyone the same thing. I can do that till I'm blue in the face. But if I keep shoving that on and the mental pillar doesn't get worked on, you're just making whatever you got worse. That makes sense? Like, here's an interesting story. Peter Sage was supposed to be on my podcast today, and he got stuck in a plane, and he's going to be on later. But Peter tells a story about when he was in jail, wrongly put in jail. He said he started teaching prisoners the mental game, because if he loaded up other stuff, all you make him is worse prisoners. The mental game is like the game. Everything else will be fine, easy. So long answer, short answer, belief.
Belief. I love it. And shout out to Peter Sage. We've had him on the show.
Oh, you have? He's awesome.
Yeah, so he is definitely awesome. And yeah, it's one thing that I always say when I'm doing lives or anything. I always say that you have to level up your mindset before you can level up your skill set.
100%.
And a lot of the times it's the stories that we've told ourselves. And so I guess my question to you next, though, is how do I change my belief? Is it just like, is it very important that I hire a coach or a mentor, or is there little things that I can do on a daily basis that can get me some momentum to then start to change it for me? What is those things for you? Is it a morning routine? Is it reading a little bit of the Bible? Is it just being grateful for the things that you've already accomplished? What's it for you?
Everything you just said, yes. It is getting around. Make no doubt about it. Like, association is key. Who you're around, key. That'll help, but do you still have to do those daily things? In my opinion, yes. There hasn't been a person on my show ever, and I think you'll probably agree, ever, that's when I ask them about a morning routine, they go, yeah, I don't do that. No one has said that. So there's a common thread. So for me, it's things like a workout followed by usually a breathing app, then a workout, followed by meditation. And if I don't work out, it's just yoga in place of that and same routine. And then I listen to what I call I am statements. I record them in my own phone, the statements that I worked on with my coach. I play them 3 times every morning while I'm grabbing coffee. These are just routines. And then some visualization. These are minutes, not hours, right? This is not hard. So whatever it is for you, the night routine is as important as the morning, because how you end it, it's going to be how you get up. So those 2 routines are super important.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. You're just building the muscle, because eventually it'll become just like second nature. In the beginning, if we don't have that muscle built, that's where we struggle. For you, I'm sure you have coaches, you have a great association, a great network. One question that I want to ask you, though, is if you could have dinner or even lunch with one person, dead or alive, who would it be? And better yet, what one question would you ask that person?
Okay, so I'm going to probably bore the audience with this mental thing again, and this is not a political statement. I want to be super clear. It has nothing to do with my preferences or anything, but I would, because at any time you ask me this, I'm going to say the past president. So in this case, this happens to be Trump. I would want to know how the heck they got through, so any past president, they got through the mental game, because they get barrage from all avenues. Again, this has nothing to do with politics. They get barrage. Yeah. They get a lot. So how did you deal with that mentally? And I just shut up. Because to call it thick skin color you want, they get through a lot. And you could pick every president and say that. So that's what I would do.
One, for sure. It's crazy. Have you ever looked at the pictures of when they come in? So when they're done.
Yes. Yeah, my wife and I said that. Yeah. You're like, what happened to you?
No sleep?
No.
It's crazy. I just couldn't even imagine, right? Because even if it's not something that's going on in your country, there's something, we're allies to so many places, and they want to see how you can come defend them, and you're trying to come up with all these strategies. And
yeah, I mean, I worry about my team. I got 11 people. He's got, whatever. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, great question. Man, this has definitely been a phenomenal conversation. I guess the last thing that I would ask you is, for somebody that's still out there listening at this, they're super inspired and they want to blaze a path and a journey similar to yours, but they have that little voice in their head, and we kind of already alluded to it. And that little voice says that they're not strong enough, they're not smart enough, or maybe they just don't have enough resources. What's the one thing that you would leave this person with in hopes to get them to just take action?
Well, that you are the only thing in your way right now. Literally, you are the only thing in your way. So if it's me, if it's someone else, get around someone that can help you see that. It's there. You just can't see it yet. There's no question about it.
I love it. For anybody that wants to stay connected with you, we'll make sure that we put all of our links in the show notes. But where can they find you directly at?
If they go to smartrealestatecoach.com, if they just want to get a message to me, they can do it there. But if they want to call, like, I'll give your listeners, I thought this was a really cool conversation. I appreciate you and your show. If they want to call with me, my son-in-law, Zach, or Brian, one of the three of us are going to get, and they can request me if they want. Free call, 15 minutes. We could talk mental. We could talk strategy. We could talk game plan. We could talk feeling. I don't care. Just go to smartrealestatecoach.com/action, and they can schedule that call. I'm happy to do that. I probably just opened up a can of worms for my team, but I'll do that for your listeners, and I'm happy to do that. I don't know if you guys are all on Clubhouse yet. I'm on Clubhouse. You can follow me there as well, for sure. I'm on there fairly often.
Cool. Well, we'll definitely make sure, like I said, we put all of those links in the show notes. But just as he said, DreamNation, you got to take some type of action. Because if you don't, we all know that dream that you have, especially if it's a real estate dream, it will only merely be a fantasy. So that's all for this one. We'll catch you on the next one.
You're awesome. Thanks, buddy.
If you've gotten anything out of this episode, do me a favor and head on over to iTunes if you have access and leave me a review. My whole goal is to make sure that I'm serving you all the right way. You're my tribe. You're who I care about. You're why I do this. So if you want to give me any type of thanks, or if you want to let me know whatever your thoughts or your feelings are from this episode or any other episode that you've listened to, leave me a rating or review. And also, if you're looking for more tips, strategies, and even resources when it comes to leveling up your real estate game, head on over to DreamNationAcademy.com. We have a really cool real estate section there, and it's something that I wish that I would have had when I first got started in real estate. So that's DreamNationAcademy.com. Don't wait. I'll see you on the other side.